All right. Hi, I'm Steve Curian with Pride of Bristol Bay. Been commercial fishing Bristol Bay, Alaska for 19 years coming up. And today we've got Tim Sams, the area biologist out of Dillingham, Alaska, who is in charge of the west side districts, which are mainly the Nushagak, Agushik, and the Togiak rivers. So we welcome them on, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the biologists do. Tim, from your point of view, explain to our folks listening what makes the Nushagak River system such an amazing salmon production habitat?
Well, I think like most of our systems here in Bristol Bay, it's the pristine nature of the watershed. You know, there's been very little development in our watersheds. And so all the lakes and the sloughs and the creeks and everything are prime spawning habitat because they're not being disturbed by, you know, human disturbances. And that makes them very productive.
Yeah, no, that's what I always kind of refer to our customers as like the pristine environment, and you know why salmon have kind of failed in other places in the world. But then you go to Bristol Bay, Alaska, and it's we're having these 50 million fish runs consistently over the last couple of years, and it's just the untouched habitat, right?
Exactly. It's that's a big part of, you know, the fish have to have a place to spawn, they have to have a place to rear, and the more disturbances in those places, the kind of less habitable they are.
As a biologist, can you give us an insight of how you kind of manage the fishery from, you know, doing the research in this time of year to kind of putting down the projections for the upcoming season, and then managing the day-to-day fishery when it's happening?
Right. Well, you know, it's a team effort. And so we have some research biologists that they put together the forecast, and the forecast is based on our brood table. The brood table is the number of fish that spawned and the number of fish that returned from any particular spawning event. And it gives us an idea of the first thing we need to know is how many fish do we need to escape into the river to produce the next generation of salmon to keep the run sustainable. So we have years of data. You know, we've been using our current escapement enumeration systems. Mostly we have towers on most of the systems where the water is clear right below the lakes. We can count the fish from towers, and we've been doing that since the 50s. Now, in the Nushagak River, there are lakes, but they're very far upstream, so we wouldn't get very timely data from a tower camp upstream. So we use sonar in the lower river, and that gives us more timely data to make the decisions in season. So we have a brood table. From the brood table and that data, we figure out what the escapement goals should be, and so then we have management plans for the different districts, and they include, you know, regulations about how you're supposed to mark your net or how big your boat can be, to what the escapement goals are and what we're supposed to manage for. Anyway, to get the other information for the brood table, we do sampling. We count the escapement, and we sample the escapement to look at the different age classes of salmon. And we do all the same thing with the commercial harvest. Once we have the age classes of salmon, we can, you know, build the brood table and get all that information. And that helps us then do the forecast and project, you know, in 2020, we had X number of fish come back to the Wood River, and there were so many of them were one year in freshwater, 2 years in the ocean. Makes them 4-year-old fish because there's a year as an egg. Not a whole year, but the way we do it. So
Yeah, I just learned that. I didn't know that until I was talking to Travis Elson, and he was kind of explaining that in detail, the age classes, and I picked up a bit of information.
right, yeah. So anyway, and then we do the forecast by age class, because a two ocean fish, a 1-2 that we have more of here in the Wood River, a lot of their progeny will also be 1-2s, not all, but a lot. And so we can look at the different age classes and do a projection for each age class and add those together, and that's how we come up with the forecast for the next year. And then in season, we're getting the catch information, the escapement information, and using that information, also our historical escapement information, so that on any given day, I can look at our historical information and say, okay, on June 27th, if we're going to make it to our escapement goal, we should have X number of fish past the tower. And if we're ahead of that curve, then we could probably have some fishing time. And if we're behind that curve, then we probably don't have fishing time. Now, the Nushagak district's a little more complicated than some of the other districts, because we have multiple rivers that we're trying to manage at the same time, and multiple species. So, for example, in the Nushagak River, we have a king salmon run, and there's a lot of overlap in the run timing with king salmon and the sockeye salmon. So our fishermen are out there trying to catch sockeye salmon, but they can accidentally catch king salmon, and we have to try and meter the amount of fishing time to hopefully allow enough king salmon to get by, and also sockeye salmon, and then still provide some opportunity. And when you have two different river systems that come out right together, like the Wood and the Nushagak do, especially the Wood River produces a lot more sockeye salmon than the Nushagak, you can sometimes catch so many of the Nushagak sockeye that you have to be concerned about getting to the escapement goal, but you're still not catching enough of the Wood River sockeye to keep it within the escapement goal.
Yeah, you talk a lot about the data and looking at that to use to manage, but then on a day-to-day basis, you spend quite a bit of time looking at flying and looking at what's in the district, and also what you project, like just gut project is coming based off of what came through Port Muller and should be on its way.
Right. There's a whole bunch of different little pieces of information we try and collect. Aerial surveys are a big one for us here in the Nushagak. The Wood River kind of drives our management decisions here in the Nushagak, because it's such a productive system. And we want to control that. But like I said, at the same time, we don't want to fish so hard that we're trying to control that we damage the other system. So it's a really fine balancing act. But aerial surveys, reports from fishermen, information from the commercial harvest, weather, because sometimes a big storm can come through, and if it's blowing 40 miles an hour out in the bay, I'm sure you've seen some of those, it makes it harder to fish. It makes the fishermen less efficient, and a lot of fishermen will just go anchor up and stop fishing.
So that weather pushes the fish.
And that at the same time, that weather pushes the fish. So there's all these little kind of things that we have to look out for, watch for, and try and make decisions that will accomplish our goal of providing opportunity for fishermen, but at the same time, providing for the sustainable run and the subsistence harvest and all the other uses that go into the fishery.
Yeah, it's not just commercial fishing, right? There's the whole sustainable subsistence fisheries for all the locals there living in rural Alaska, Dillingham, being able to put their winter's catch up, so they have a stock for their whole winter. So I mean, that's kind of my background is in forestry before I got into fishing, and the resource management part of the whole fishery kind of fascinates me. I'd almost like to take a season off and live from where the upper district boundary is all the way up to the lakes and really see the other side of the fishery.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And you're right. Subsistence fishing, sport fishing, the escapement are all other important uses that are very much in consideration. It's not just a commercial fishery.
Yeah, the resource has to be shared across. And I find, I mean, as a commercial fisherman, I know I probably have a little bit of a open view on that, because I understand that not all commercial fishermen want to share it, but a lot of our customers are sport fishermen, go to Bristol Bay and fly fish and take home some of their own fish. So it's good to see that we're still able to manage the resource for multiple use, for multiple uses.
Yeah.
So what is the what are your thoughts on the 2021 run projections? Looks like we're in for another good season.
Yeah, well, for the Nushagak district in particular, 15 million total run. That's, I think that'll be fourth or fifth all time, depending on what it comes in as, and that's one of the things that I find really rewarding and exciting about being here is, they started fishing in Nushagak district in the 1880s. And we've had, since I've been the manager since 2003. I've been here since 2000. I think we've had 3 record runs since I've been here, which is incredible, I think, to be part of a record run, a fishery that's been going on over 130 years. And we've had record runs within the last 5 years. I think it's a real a testimony to the sustainable nature of the fishery.
Yeah, no, I mean, in a time when a lot of other fisheries have failed across the globe, and we're seeing all kinds of issues in fisheries for sustainability, Bristol Bay has been that shining star out there that sustainability is possible.
Yeah.
So obviously that the habitat being that it's untouched has been a big part of what allows that to happen, with the biology and management laid on top of it. Obviously we've got the Pebble mine that's in the headwaters of one of the major rivers that feed your district. Can you talk a little bit about how you see that as a major threat to the fishery?
Well, anytime you're going to have a big project like a mine in your watershed, that would obviously lead to a lot of concerns. Now, fortunately, I think the Corps of Engineers just came out recently and said that they were not going to permit that mine. So that was well received by many folks here in Dillingham, that news, and it certainly makes my life easier to not have to worry about that in the near term.
Yeah, so that was one of my other questions, was that the local Dillingham crew was excited to hear that news, because we always kind of get mixed signals whether rural Alaska wants a mine like Pebble or they're against it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some people on either side of the issue, but most of the people I know and talk with, they were happy to hear the news.
Great. How's the winter been in Dillingham this year? Is it looking like another cold winter like last year, or is the temperatures a bit warmer?
I think it's right around 30 degrees today. It's been a better winter, because we've had a lot of winters that's been mostly rain, or it'll snow and get cold, then it'll warm up and rain, and it's not very conducive for snow machine travel.
Right.
So right now we've had snow for a while. We've been going on a couple rides, me and my son. I'm hoping that it stays that way. Although it might, my wife said something about it turning to rain here shortly, so we'll see. Right now, there's a moose hunt open over by Togiak, and there's a lot of folks that are out. They're able to travel now and able to take advantage of the good conditions and try and get a moose. So my son and I got a moose. My son got his first moose this fall, so we don't need any more meat. Between the moose and the salmon, our freezer's full. Yeah. So that's good. But a lot of folks are working on trying to get a moose now, and we're optimistic that the winter will stay nice. It's really nice in the spring when the days are longer. If we have good snow and you can really travel and go places, and it's just a beautiful place all the time. But when you can really get out there and do stuff that you can't do any other time of the year, because you can't walk across the tundra for miles and miles in a day when you can take the snow machine and just really access a lot of places.
Yeah, no, that country is definitely riddled with lakes, streams, and potholes. You're not going very far unless it's frozen over.
Right.
Well, good. Is there anything else you'd want to tell the folks there that are listening?
We have a great program up here. We've been doing it for quite a few years, and like I said, the fact that we're still having record runs after 130 plus years of fishing is the thing I would point to that really proves that we're doing a sustainable job and eat wild salmon, Bristol Bay wild
Right
salmon.
I don't think that, like I said, you guys don't get the credit you deserve for all the work that you do in the background to make the fishery happen. And, we're out there working around the clock trying to harvest fish, but there's a whole other arm of research and biology going on, working at the same pace over the summer to make this all happen. And so really thankful for what you do. And, you started the year before I started, so in Bristol Bay. So that's kind of neat. I hope to hear your voice on the radio announcing the fishery for a long time to come.
Yeah. So, one of the other things that I think is different, and of course, I don't have experience with other fisheries really. I've only ever managed a fishery here in Nushagak. But one of the things I feel is there's a lot of buy-in from the fishermen in what the department does. And so when we have to shut down a fishery because we're worried about not having enough escapement, I don't get complaints. I think other places that might not be the case. But in 2019, we had really warm water temperatures. We had plenty of fish. They just couldn't go up the stream because the water was so warm. This was in the Nushagak River. And I think other places the fishermen might have called and complained and said, you got to open us up. There's fish here. You've got to let us catch them. We didn't have that. People were like, we understand. We see the fish aren't going up the river. We see the fish dying in the river because the water was too warm. And we understand what you have to do and we support you.
Yeah, that's what I see changing in Bristol Bay from my original first couple years. I think as younger generations come in, we've been able to set the culture of Bristol Bay fishermen that we need to be working for sustainability. And it seems to have caught on and really stuck. Like you said, where a lot of there's some other fisheries that they don't want to hear that. They just want to fish.
Right. No, I think you're exactly right with the word culture. I think that's what it is. And I know I've worked hard to help propagate that culture by being open with fishermen, and things like this are a great opportunity to get the word out and make it so that people aren't afraid to call me and talk to me and get the real information and not just what they heard third hand over, a few beers in the boatyard or whatever.
So one last question. What's your favorite way to cook sockeye?
Well, I grill it. The way I cook mine is I do the little butterflies. You know what those are, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I do a butterfly on my fish to make it so it's all equal thickness. So that way it all cooks the same speed. I use shallot pepper that I get from Penzies and salmon magic, Paul Prudhomme salmon magic.
Yeah.
Then I use olive oil and soy sauce in equal parts, and I marinate it for 45 minutes, throw it on the grill. Takes, 5-7 minutes maybe total. Flip it once. You should ask George. George has had my salmon. He might speak highly of it.
Yeah, I think Matt Luck cooked it that way on our raft trip. I think that he talked him into, because we cut it into butterflies, and we had Chef Paul's on board, and I think that now that you say that, I think that's exactly where he got that recipe.
Good. Yeah, that's what I do. And I've never had any complaints. So, and we cook it, we eat salmon. Well, we had salmon patties last night. I probably grill it at least once a week. It doesn't matter what the temperature is. It's time to cook dinner. We fire up the grill and cook it, because we use a gas grill because charcoal is too much of a hassle up here. But
I can imagine.
yeah, so I cook it the same way every time, and nobody gets tired of it. Or they might get tired of it, but it still tastes good.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it is in my household. I think my wife and kids once in a while get tired of it, but I love it so much. And like you said, it tastes so good. It's like, why not?
Right.
So, well, hey, Tim, I really appreciate having you on today. And I'm sure our customers and listeners will be excited to hear. And so thanks. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the summer.
Yeah, that sounds great, Steve. Good luck and my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. It was fun.
It sounds good. Thanks, Tim.